Hello and welcome to Council Catch-Up. I'm Derek Westby, your host here on WSTO TV. WSTO TV is on TDS channel 981, Spectrum channel 981, on Roku, Apple TV, Fire TV, Android, and iOS apps, and on YouTube and Facebook. We're going to talk about the city budget, which got approved a week ago at the November 7th, 2023 City Council meeting, and then we'll talk about last night's November 14th Council meeting. And I'm here with Mayor Swadley. Welcome.
Morning.
So the budget got passed. Can you talk a little bit about what people should expect from the budget?
Sure. What we tried to do in the budget this year was really address some of our staffing needs. And fortunately, the state of Wisconsin created what they call a supplemental shared revenue. And what they did is they took a percentage of the sales tax, 1 cent out of the sales tax, or 20%, and they put that in a pool of money. And then municipalities are basically allowed more shared revenue out of that pool of money. They had a nonpartisan nonprofit come up with the formula. Stoughton's share was $320-some thousand. So that gave us more money to work with. We did lose some state aid in other categories, so we ended up with about an extra $200,000 to work with. We also had our second highest net new construction year. So the way our budget works, it's a zero-based budget, and then we can increase our taxes based on the net new construction, which was about $150,000. We anticipate that number will be larger for the 2024 year. So with that, and then going through our existing budgets and moving some things around, and actually found some additional sources of money in our budget that hadn't been allocated, we were able to address our staffing issues. So, for example, we had already committed to some new positions, an additional machine operator at Public Works, additional 8 hours for the program director at the senior center, and an additional 20 hours for administrative assistant at City Hall for Park and Recreation Department. So those had already been approved this year using money from this year's budget from vacated positions, and then we carried those positions into next year using those funding sources. And we also included money in the budget to hire 2 people for fire and EMS, one using the new supplemental shared revenue dollars, and the other one coming out of the EMS budget, which is a separate enterprise budget. That money for EMS comes from the services they provide. It does not come from property taxes. So with those 2 new positions, we approved job descriptions at last night's meeting, which we'll talk about. And those 2 positions will be certified to do fire and EMS, which will give us more flexibility, especially during the daytime. And those folks will work around the hours that the volunteers currently hold. So the volunteers will continue to work their normal shifts. There really won't be any impact to them as well through this process. And the new positions will supplement the hours they're already working and fill those gaps during the daytime. Had many conversations with internal and external sources to find out really what our needs were based on our call volume, especially on the EMS side. And really the answer I received was, we need to get more vehicles on the road during the daytime, and this budget addresses that. We also had money in there that we could hire an additional police officer, so we'll be doing that as well. And then another case manager, part-time position, 20 hours at the senior center. We have a 2 to 3 week backlog for case management, so hiring another person down there should be able to get people in their challenges addressed more quickly and efficiently. And then additional hours for other part-time positions. So we feel that collectively we're really in a nice position now in order to support the services that we have and position ourselves for the future growth.
All right, now on to the November 14th council meeting. The first item under new business was a billing services agreement for EMS Management and Consultants, LLC, or Inc., I mean.
So the EMS works with the billing services. Unfortunately, the company that we work with was kind of a family-owned, and there was a death in the family. So the surviving members sold their business, and we're basically renewing the contract with the company that purchased the business with the same terms and conditions.
All right. The next item was a waiver agreement to allow Quarles and Brady to represent Stoughton Hospital for easement negotiations.
Yeah, so the city does some business with Quarles and Brady, and the hospital is going to be using them for some of their work. The representation for the hospital isn't really relevant to the services that we use Quarles and Brady for, but is really customary whenever we have a company that does both. We sign a conflict waiver. Sometimes that happens with attorneys or with financial institutions or banks because there's a small pool of companies that provide those municipal services.
And then item number 9, Resolution 175, is a real estate purchase agreement for the Stoughton Riverfront Development, LLC.
Yeah, so the Stoughton Riverfront has been an ongoing project with the Redevelopment Authority, and we had been under contract with Kurt Brink. That contract expired, and we really wanted to renew the contract and really put some benchmarks in there for Kurt to reach in order to get the property developed. And Kurt agreed to the terms and conditions of that agreement. His original agreement, we had planned on putting up several buildings down there and having multi-unit apartments. Under the current agreement, he's looking at doing condos. With the rising cost of supplies and interest rates, we just couldn't make an apartment complex cash flow. So pre-selling condos is what he's working toward doing. We expect him to be setting up shop here in Stoughton. That's one of the benchmarks in order to get some interest in the property and hopefully, get to the point by next year to really get people under contract to start the project.
All right. Item number 10 is a agreement to undertake development for phase 1 of that development.
So that really just kind of lays out the terms and conditions of those benchmarks.
Okay. And then item number 11 is Resolution 178, which took a majority of last night's meeting to reorganize the Recreation and Parks Department under Public Works.
Yeah, so unfortunately, our Park and Rec Director, Dan Glynn, is relocating for a new position in Minnesota. So whenever we have a leadership person leave, we kind of do an evaluation of that position to see whether or not we want to repost that position as is or if we want to make some changes. And basically what we recommended to the City Council is that we move the Park and Recreation Department out to the Public Works building. We believe there's going to be some efficiencies that can be gained there. For example, we have an administrative assistant at City Hall for Park and Recreation. We have an office manager in Public Works. So by moving out there, we can have that person that is in City Hall doing administrative work do more field work as well as some administrative work. So we have some more cross-training and then some more boots on the ground in that department. We also, and I think there was consensus on the council that was a good plan. That's something we've been talking about for years, and we just felt it was time that we do that. The other part, which really had a robust debate, was, the position of the Park and Rec Director. And after a few amendments and some long deliberations, the recommendation was approved to retitle that position as Park and Recreation Superintendent. So instead of having a director that would be a direct report to myself, the superintendent would be a direct report to the Public Works Director, who oversees all the departments that are under that building out there. And then the Park and Recreation Supervisor would be more involved with the park maintenance as well. And that's always been a challenge, having a park and maintenance in a separate building than the Park and Rec programs. So bringing them all in under one roof is really going to create some efficiencies and more collaboration.
All right, and items number 12, 13, and 14 are all related to that restructure, just some position description changes.
Yeah, so what we wanted to do is set up the flow chart in a way where everybody knew who they were reporting to, and we had more specific roles and responsibilities to make sure that the efficiencies that we believe we'll get will actually occur. And so we retitled some of the positions, moved some things around, added some things, and we think that we're going to be positioned to really run a nice, effective department out there.
All right, and the last item, number 15, was the creation of that full-time AEMT firefighter position.
Yeah, so as I mentioned during the budget process, we approved these positions, and we had to do a job description, and Chief Ripp and Director Schimmelfilling got together, combined all the roles and responsibilities for both positions into one, all the certifications that would be required for a fire technician and an advanced EMT, and put those together, went through the personnel committee, and we needed to get city council approval per policy for a new position so we can get those jobs posted.
All right, that's all that was in the November 14th, 2023 City Council meeting. We'll see you guys after the November 28th City Council meeting right here on Council Catch Up.